Welcome to YLC, the Young Leaders Committee that promotes and grows youth leadership that ensures the future leaders lead from today by educating and inspiring them to soar higher and higher.
Welcome to Young Leaders Committee. This is the leadership channel for growing and supporting leaders in all spheres of life. We are continuing our series on the theme Foundational Leadership Issues. The focus today is effective communication, but we'll also give attention to barriers in communication. Communication is vital and indispensable. It exists even where we think it does not. For example, it exists in the animal kingdom. It's vital and determines their relationship, the relationship between animals and the relationship between human beings. To some extent, even the relationship between human beings and animals. However, the modes and manners of communication differ significantly. Let's look at understanding communication. Point number 1, understanding communication. We want to look at the concept of communication and we'll extend to the concept of effective communication. As leaders, effective communication is crucial for building strong relationships and serving others. In this session, we will explore the importance of communication, types of communication, and how to overcome barriers to effective communication. Let's look at the meaning of communication. I want to look at 2 definitions. First, communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, or messages between individuals, groups, or organizations. Second, communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, and feelings between individuals or groups encompassing various forms like verbal, written, and non-verbal expressions. It involves verbal and non-verbal cues, listening, empathy, and feedback. Now, let's go a step further to look at the concept of effective communication. The word effective is indicative. The concept of effective communication includes the sender, the receiver, the message, the language of communication that is familiar to both sender and receiver, a channel, medium, and noise, which usually we don't expect, but we may find, the environment, and feedback. The word effective connotes success. That is, the communication achieved its intended aim. The goals have been achieved, and every leader is being advised to aim at communicating effectively. Don't just communicate. Have an aim. Make good plans. Devise means of achieving results when you communicate. Do your best to ensure that what you want to pass across is appropriately received and interpreted. We'll discuss more about interpreting transmissions received, but it is very important. Let's go on now to look at types of communication. There are different types of communication. Some people have 4 main categories, but I have chosen 2: verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Under non-verbal, you can have written, you can have visual, you can have audiovisual, and all that. They are all non-verbal communication. Under verbal communication, we can talk about face-to-face conversations, phone calls, video conferencing, public speaking, language you use, and then in such cases, in verbal communications, we must be mindful of language, expressions, and manner of expression, among others. Then in non-verbal communication, people usually focus on body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and written communication, which I mentioned earlier on. And we agree with that largely. Now, let's proceed to point number 2. Point number 2, we are looking at the essentials of communication. There are certain things that we need to know, and we need to adopt them and use them, using them appropriately for communication to be effective. These are principles that guide and promote effective communication. They ensure that messages are effectively delivered, easily understood, messages are accurate, and both message and communication are thorough and respectful. We are going to see them. They can also be called good communication skills. One writer may use one word and another writer may use another. It doesn't really matter. What matters is you know them. Call them principles, call them skills, use them, know them, use them, and be effective in your communication. Now, we want to say that your communication, therefore, should be clear. Clarity is important. You should be clear about the goal of your message and the purpose of the message. Present one idea at a time, making it easier for your recipients to understand you. Your message should be concise. That is, keep to the point and keep it short and simple. Next, your message should be concrete. That is, you should be clear, not fuzzy. Ensure there is enough detail to get the message across, but not so much as to get the recipient lost. But the message should be factual. That is, it should be rich in content, exact, and clear as well. Next, your communication should be correct. Check and ensure that the information you are providing is accurate. In written communication, ensure it is free of grammatical and spelling errors. Thank God we have Grammarly and other means you can use to ensure this. Also ensure that the technical parts of your content could be understood by the person receiving the information. Next, your message should be coherent. That is, you are to make sure your message flows well and is laid out logically, following sequentially and reasonably. The points you make should all be linked to the main topic and should help you to deliver the objective you originally set out to achieve. Next principle, your communication should be complete. That says you should ensure the recipients have everything they need to understand your message and take action if need be. Next, your communication should be courteous. Your message should be polite, friendly if need be, but professional, open, and honest. Think about your message from the recipient's point of view and be empathetic towards their needs. Let's go to point number 3. The ideal communication system. We will take part of this in this video, and then the rest we will move on to the next video. The ideal communication system has 3 main parts, and the 3 main parts are sender, medium, receiver. There should be a sender, medium, and a receiver. As we go further, we are going to expand this a little bit, but you need to know that each is crucial and should be given attention as they deserve. The effectiveness of any communication depends on the nature, the state or condition, the place and position of each of these 3 components. I want to take that again. The effectiveness, or let's say the degree of effectiveness of your communication, depends on the nature, the state or condition, the place or position of these 3 components, and how well you, the communicator, handle them, put them together, and make use of them. Communication consists essentially of, we're now going to expand the 3 into 5. Men, and that is generic, male and female are there in that word. Men, medium, message, manner, meaning. Men, that is the sender as well as the receiver. Then the medium of communication, the message you want to pass across, a sender, how you pass across the message, and the meaning the receiver makes of your message. Let's look at men involved in communication. We have a sender at the beginning of the communication who has the intention for seeking to communicate. The sender has something to pass across. Then we have the receiver at the end who has an expectation. We're going to look at this in details later. Let's look at mediums of communication. A medium of communication is a method or channel that you use to convey messages, share information or ideas, and transmit knowledge. It could be verbal, that is spoken. It could be non-verbal, body language, gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice, and so on. It could be written. Maybe you want to send a memo, you want to send a text, you want to send emails. It could be visual. You want to display something visual, something they can see with their eyes, or interactive, where maybe social media and some other online platforms that you can use, you send and receive and interact. This can be used in person, it can be used remotely, or through various technologies. Let's leave that at that point and proceed to manner of communication. The manner, how you communicate. It might be intentional, it might not be intentional. Sometimes we communicate without realizing we are communicating. But we are going to look at basic manners of communication. 1, formal. Ideally, in this case, you are addressing a position. this is where we have challenge here. Formal communications usually address offices, posts, or positions, not the personalities there. Now, when we go on to semi-formal, here you are addressing a person, not quite in relation to the person's office. That's semi-formal. Then, informal. In this case, there is nothing official that you are considering. It's totally informal. Then we have another one that has a semblance with the last one we mentioned, informal. That's casual. We want to say that casual is a type of informal communication. It largely reflects the nature of existing relationship between the two persons, the you and colleague, you and subordinate, you and your boss. A casual relationship can take place between you and your boss, particularly outside the premises of your organization. Maybe you meet somewhere, maybe you have a program and your boss attends or you attend. In such gatherings, we expect that communication should be relatively informal. Maybe not quite casual. Then communication can be friendly or unfriendly. And I think the name clearly tells us what this means. It describes the mood of communication. But we need to know that the manner of communication is based on understanding and correct interpretation of message received. There should be clarity. In all communication, there should be clarity. Please, as much as possible, avoid ambiguity and something that can paint a picture contrary to what you, the sender, has in mind. And we also need to know that the manner of communication is critically important. It can change your intention. It can add or subtract or adjust the message outside what you intend. So the manner is important. It might prepare the receiver, set the right tone. It can boost acceptance and some others, quite a long list. Let's proceed to the next one, levels of communication. Levels of communication. Communication takes place at various levels in organizations. They can be classified broadly into two: intrapersonal and interpersonal. Intrapersonal level of communication. This may be a bit strange to some of you, but some others may be quite acquainted with it. Intrapersonal communication is communication within yourself. It encompasses thoughts, reflections, self-talk, internal dialogue, personal perception. In a sense, it is communicating with yourself, asking yourself questions and answering. It may not really be soliloquy. No, may not be. May degenerate to that. How well you fare here might determine how and what you communicate with others. This is the point. Intrapersonal communication very often is the basis and determinant of the nature and effectiveness of interpersonal communication. It's an important type of communication that is often not taken into serious consideration. Its product can either enhance or mar your communication with others. Whether you engage in intrapersonal communication or not may really matter, depending on your physiology and psychology, who you are and how your system operates. It's advised, therefore, that you practice it as often as is possible ahead of communication with people. Let's look at the second one, interpersonal communication. That is communication with a person or with others. At least two persons or two categories of persons are involved. And this one has segments. Let's take the first one, one-to-one interpersonal communication. It could be communication with your superior, your subordinate, or your colleague. It's a one-person to one-person communication. Your disposition and the content of your message here at this level is context dependent. It may also depend on the individual's consent and the style of leadership in operation. Where leadership is rigid and autocratic and bureaucratic and so formal, the communication with a subordinate or with a colleague or with a boss might have a different expression. Will definitely not be the same in all organizations. It depends on the style of leadership invoked there. The culture of the organization may also come in here. The culture of the organization may also affect one-to-one communication. Now, let's take the next one, one to a few. One to a few. Here it could be in a team, in a group, in a class, in an organization. This might be either a professional group or a specialized group. So watch your own performance. Watch your own adherence to standards and attitude. It might impinge on how well the others accept the content of your message. As I said, it could be a professional group, a specialized group, maybe an ad hoc group or a standing group. Whatever it is, it's important that you watch yourself and how you communicate and what you communicate. Now let's look at the third one, one to many. This could be more challenging. More preparation and rehearsals may be needed. Relevance of content, variety of communication style will also be required because it's a large multitude. There is what we call audience segmentation. And so you need to know the various segments in the audience and be sure you meet each group's needs. And that's why we said relevance of content, variety of communication style, and other things will be required to captivate and sustain the interest and attention of most people in the audience. It's important. Now we have one to public. This is outside the organization. This requires a knowledge of public relations. It will help. And then audience segmentation dynamics is essential. As we said earlier on in the last one, this may be a bit more complex. You need to study the audience in advance. Find out who they are, what constitutes that audience, possibly their interests and their attitude, how they respond to things, how they are likely to respond to your message and your communication. Each demands a particular type and means of communicating. That's the important one. Senders have the responsibility to determine the nature and means of communicating that is most suitable in each of these cases. Very, very important. Thank you very much. We want to ask you, did you pick anything new? Do you disagree with any thoughts expressed here? Is there any observation or comment you have? Is there anything you would like to share with us, or is there anything you would like to know and you want us to include? Please send them to the comment section or via our email that is displayed on the screen. Thank you. See you at the next session.